Today we are recording the Doc Talk podcast presented by BetFred Sports on location. We are at the Cross-Drain Draftworks in Millwork Commons, and oh boy, do we have beer to drink today. And Dr. Rob, what are you drinking, by the way?
So I'm drinking the Fairy Nectar Anniversary Blend. It's a little New England IPA, which, I mean, it's kind of their... So they've had like this whole slew of different Fairy Nectars over the last couple of years. So they'll come out with like a double dry hopped Fairy Nectar, this or that Fairy Nectar, so on and so forth. So they've done a blend of multiple different hopped versions of Fairy Nectar, and it's their anniversary blend. And guess what? It's delicious.
Nice. I am actually going with a sour. I'm going with a vanilla banana sour.
Would that be the Koala Tears?
I believe that's what it is.
I saw that up on the board.
It is absolutely amazing. It's like the best I can describe is like a banana cream pie or banana pudding. It's.
Wait. Well, hold on a second. It's a sour.
I just want you to. If you're watching on YouTube,
because I don't think of most of your pies as a sour.
Well, I know that. Just take a drink of that and I smell it and let me know what you think.
Okay, the smell is unbelievable.
There's like 800 pounds of bananas in this thing. It is absolutely incredible.
Holy shit, that's fucking delicious. I'm looking up at the board. Okay, thank God that is only a 5% ABV, because that would be like...
Here's the great thing.
I don't know. That was like, remember we were doing the doc's diagnosis earlier today.
Yeah.
And your son was going through at Owen. Country Western Bar. Yeah.
Oh, he was talking about Beer Can Alley.
Beer Can Alley, thank you. So Beer Can Alley posted a top 10 bad or wrong alcohol orders.
Yes.
And like the one he said, like, number one was, can I get a Tito's and vodka?
Now here's what it is. This was the top 10 female orders when they're drunk.
Okay, well, I wasn't going to go on that. I was just going to say top 10 orders, but I'm just like, just thank God this one's not 5% alcohol it's only 5% alcohol by volume, because this is one of those beers that you have one or two of them and that thing is tasty. You're going to want to keep drinking that all night.
So the great thing about this is that it actually comes in cans right now. And as you get farther into winter, the sours aren't probably the most popular type of beer. You get into your porters and some other stuff just because it's just cold outside your box.
I like sours year round.
I'm kind of with you on that, right? And this place is phenomenal. Millwork Commons is really going to be this up-and-coming area in downtown Omaha, in the north downtown area. It's very close to TD Ameritrade Park. But I highly encourage everybody who's listening to this podcast, or if you're watching on YouTube, this is a really cool place just to come down, hang out, be in a really unique part.
Drink beer.
But
it is
a unique part
the
of Omaha.
coolest damn building ever.
Yeah, I mean, this building goes back, probably 100 years or so, just to the manufacturing days of Omaha. And I don't even know what was in this building, but you walk in and you see.
I'm betting it was a mill.
Hence Millwork Commons. Thank you very much, Dr. Rob.
I figure stuff out quick.
You do.
I'm super smart.
You are absolutely amazing when it comes to that, man. But yeah, just a spectacular fruited.
But yeah,
beer.
I did not know about the Koala Tears, but you said they got it in cans?
Yes.
Yeah, there's a 6-pack of that going home.
Yeah, see, I thought, and it's unique, right? I've never once thought of putting bananas and beer together. But it's a unique combination that I bet you have a glass before on your next one.
Yeah, I'm probably going to have one. Yeah. It's pretty good.
So I was in Des Moines the last 3 days, and I got to sit down with Brian Bennett from BetFred Sports, and he's
like in person.
Yes.
Well, you didn't tell me this.
Yeah, he was in town. The radio station I work for, KXNO, had his 21st birthday bash, and I was up in Sioux Falls last week. I happened to stay at the Grand Falls Resort, went to the BetFred Sportsbook.
Nice. And you posted the picture. Yes. You said the Sportsbook was outstanding.
Yes, it really is. I mean, to me, it's the nicest part of the casino. I'm not a casino goer, right? But it also reminded me how important it is when Nebraska finally does get everything going to get online gaming going. I mean, it's nice to go to a casino, but it's a lot easier to do it in the comfort of your own home. But I just want you to know he loves what we're doing with the Doc Talk Pods. They couldn't be happier. They love the video that's being produced. They're happy with the podcast, and it was just nice to hit good feedback from those guys.
Love hearing that. And I would say too, I mean, I've spent time in sports books. If you don't even have to gamble, if you're somebody who likes to watch, there are few better, I'm going to call it a commercial man cave. There are a few better places to go to watch sports than a sports book.
Yep.
I mean, it is a sensory overload. It's a sportsgasm.
That's a good way to look at
it.
It
is. It's a sportsgasm.
And if you want to drive over to Iowa, if you want to drive into Colorado or even Arizona, we're offering you a free $20 bet if you download the BetFred Sports app in one of those states. And just use the promo code DocTalk, and you're going to get yourself a free $20 bet from our good friends at BetFred Sports. And I think we're going to have a lot more really cool stuff coming up, next year when it comes to BetFred Sports and being able to offer you even more cool stuff as we go along. Dr. Rob is wearing our newest shirt, which you can get on the Podbean site or on the YouTube description of this podcast. It says Die Hard is a Christmas movie. We talked a little bit about it last week, but Dr. Rob finally got here. I didn't get one because I don't think it's a Christmas movie.
Fuck you. What the hell? Why do you hate Jesus?
I don't hate Jesus. I love Jesus.
Why do you hate Bruce Willis?
I don't hate Bruce Willis. How about this? I don't even like Die Hard that much. Now you're mad at me. Now you've lost all the respect for me. Now you may know somebody who is a Die Hard fan.
Wait, hold. What's your favorite Christmas movie?
I'm kind of a sappy dude. My favorite Christmas movie is The Family Stone. The Family Stone has.
I don't even know if I've seen that.
Yeah, is
that Hallmark Network?
No, it's not a Hallmark Network, but Luke Wilson is in it. Sarah Jessica Parker is in it. Craig T. Nelson is in it.
Coach.
There's a lot of famous people in this movie. It didn't do very good reviews, but for some reason it just hits home with me. And if you were to ask what my favorite Christmas movie is, it's just a sappy, feel-good story.
Okay, so sappy Christmas Christmas movies. I like Love Actually.
Is that a Christmas movie?
It spans Christmas, so I'm going to call it a Christmas movie.
And it's really because the point is the Christmas song.
It's a rom-com.
Yes. Yeah.
So
if you
it's
really
a
love Christmas.
So I'm going to call it a Christmas movie.
And there's a lot of stars in that movie.
And then the other one is, I'm blanking on it. It's another rom-com, I'm sure. I'm like a sucker for that. I'm losing respect here.
No, you're
amongst
not.
Our listeners,
because you know what? Secretly, I think guys like rom-coms more than they like to lead on. Right? They'll like, we can go down that direction. But yeah, I mean,
Definitely Maybe. That's the movie.
Definitely Maybe. I don't think I've seen Definitely Maybe.
That's a good one.
I have seen Love Actually several times.
Yeah, always. I love these. Definitely Maybe. Love Actually.
So I will watch Definitely Maybe. You have to watch The Family Stone.
All right. How about like Polar Express? I mean, that's a good one.
But yeah, it is. It's in the book was really good, right? So and you like Robert Zemeckis doesn't make bad movies. When you put Tom Hanks in something, it usually doesn't.
Yeah, that's probably a good point.
Yeah. So I like. Yeah, I like.
Do you know who else makes a great Christmas movie? Bruce Willis.
And in Die Hard. Now, do you like
Elf? Hans Gruber? Hans Gruber makes a great Christmas movie.
Do you like Elf? Do you watch Elf?
Elf is outstanding. You sit on what is it? You sit upon a throne of lies. There you go.
Yeah, there's so many good Christmas.
There was just so many good one-liners out of that one movie. I'm going to screw them all up.
But if you want that shirt, and I'm telling you right now, you probably know somebody in your life who loves Die Hard. It's only going to be a limited time only. It's going to be available through the holidays. Die Hard is a Christmas movie, and it's from our Ray Gun Custom, and this shirt is comfortable.
Oh my God, they're so comfortable.
Yeah.
that might actually be the most consistent feedback we've gotten from people who've ordered the shirts is forget what's on it. This is the most comfortable shirt I've ever worn.
Yes, and I'm telling you, you will not be disappointed.
I'm about 95% sure that they weave like Novocaine and cocaine into the shirt itself. That's how comfortable these things are.
See that, and you can get the Sorry Dave T-shirt. You can get it's called Life Grab a Helmet T-shirt. If we lose, we still booze T-shirt.
Diversified portfolio.
Diversified.
I was wearing that earlier today. Like I walked into your house wearing diversified portfolio, and you're like, "Yeah, no, you're putting on Die Hard as a Christmas."
Well, because
movie.
And
that's all. And that is kind of my thing. It's like for some reason that movie just kind of. I loved it as a kid.
Yeah.
Which when I say kid, that was like high school or college.
Yeah.
But love the movie. I love all the Die Hards. I love the fact that. Dude, it's a Christmas movie.
There you go.
It is. You've got redemption. You've got violence. I mean, that's like Christmas in a nutshell.
Christmas in a nutshell.
Yeah, redemption and violence right there.
Cool part is we are recording at the Millwork Commons complex. We're at the Cross-Train Draft Works. Our good friend Connor Orr is here. He'll be stopping by, talk a little bit of NIL, because he's got a big NIL symposium coming up, I believe, this week down at the University of Nebraska Law School. Chad Carr is here from Tickets for Less. It used to be Ticket Express. Now it's Tickets for Less. So we'll talk to Chad about what's going on at Tickets for Less and catch up with him. But, yesterday, and we're recording this on a Sunday, Nebraska was beaten at Michigan 34-3. Michigan kicked a field goal late to cover the spread.
Largest spread in Nebraska history.
So, I guess at this point, Nebraska lost. It will not be going to a bowl game. There's a lot of uncertainty. We'll get into the rumors that were flying around this week. Rob, what does this team have to play for? Honest to God, what does this team have to play for with 2 games left? At home against Wisconsin and on the road at Iowa.
That's a tough question. And I didn't, when I went through my career at Nebraska, it wasn't like we were always playing for a national title. I mean, you had years, my junior and senior year, yes, freshman and sophomore year, no. And so you get to that point in the season where you knew you were not playing for that title. There is a ton of pride on the line. And that's kind of the biggest thing is, you're out there for a reason. You're out there for the love of the game. You love playing the sport. You've got pride of performance, of being able to go out there, represent the team, represent the guys that you're out there playing next to, and representing the school. And those are the things that I think become foremost in mind from a motivational standpoint for a lot of these players. It's, and everybody wants to play for that title. If you think about it, the way the playoff is stacking up right now, you've got about 4, maybe 5 teams that have a shot at getting to the playoff right now. I guess I'm still kind of including LSU in that mix, maybe Alabama's a maybe.
Alabama, you think so? I think Alabama is essentially out. I really do.
I think that as well, but on the flip side, you look the latest AP poll, they're sitting in 8th.
Yeah, but the AP poll doesn't matter.
It's I get that, but I think anybody who's two or three spots outside of the top 4, that'd be 4 spots out of the top 4, still has maybe a little bit of an outside shot at it. So it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out. You've got some questions with how does the Ohio State-Michigan game affect things, because you've got 2 undefeated teams that are going to play each other. One of them's going to end up with a loss here. Do they stay in the top 4? And I would be shocked if they did not. But that's also that a little bit of a open door there, depending on how bad the loser of that game gets beat and how good kind of that 5th place team, 6th place team at the time is looking going into that.
To me, it's striking that really what happened what hasn't changed in the college football playoff poll, it's still beneficial to lose early. Look at LSU.
100%.
LSU has 2 losses, right? Now, if Michigan and Ohio State, one of them's going to lose because they got to play each other. Let's say it's a 3, 4, even 7-point ball game, right? Does LSU with 2 losses jump ahead of one of those 2? Because to me, I don't think it should.
I would think not. And I think a lot of that is where when you look at the college football playoff committee, the hope would be is the reason the committee's there is to make those decisions where you'd say, listen, is a 1-loss Michigan team or a 1-loss Ohio State team more deserving than a 2-loss LSU team? Now, at LSU, the one thing that's benefited them is the fact that one of their losses was very early in the year. I mean, it was essentially the season opening game against Florida State, who's now in the top 20 poll. They're not 25. I think they're 20th this week in the AP poll. So all of a sudden, you've got Florida State's been playing very good ball, very consistent ball here over the course of the season. Are they a top 10 team? No, but they are a top 20 team. And all of a sudden, that early season loss to Florida State, it's looking very much like a quality loss. I hate saying that, but it is. So that helps them out a lot. You've got the win over Alabama, which it tells you a lot about how much clout Alabama has just as an institution within the world of college football, that at this point, any win over Alabama is meaningful, it's impactful, and it impacts things like this.
Hell, back in the day, it went over Nebraska used to mean that.
Well, it did.
Doesn't anymore.
It has zero impact now. But, I mean, that's one of those things where when you look at these situations, there's going to be probably this year not as much. I think you are going to truly have probably 2 teams, maybe 3 teams that are going to be on the outside looking in going like, oh, God, we really think we deserve a shot at this and we didn't get it. I don't think it's going to be much more than 2 teams. But this is again the reason why I look at the playoff and have an incredibly favorable view on expansion, where I think 8 is too few. I think 12 is reasonable. I think 16 would be outstanding. I'm a more is better guy at this point. And I'm not saying you got to go to 24 teams. I don't think you got to be like Division II NC2A, where I think it's 28 teams go into the playoff. NAIA is the same way, where you've got a lot of teams going into the playoff every year. It doesn't have to be like that, but I think 12 to 16 is a reasonable number.
Well, and we know we're going to see 12. It's agreed upon.
And
now.
I get that
number.
Yeah. So 12's coming, but all of a sudden, I mean, there's a hell of a lot easier argument to make about some of these teams that are hanging out, that are going to ultimately end up in 5th, 6th, 8th, 10th place, who are going to have a little bit of that argument for wanting to be in the playoff. Those teams are going to be in now. Those are going to be easy arguments. The guys who are sitting in 13th, 14th, 15th place, who are going to sit here saying, hey, we should have made the playoff, it's going to be like, okay, yeah, I get it, but geez, you know what? Get higher than 15th, and you're going to do just fine. So
it's taken a while, but I do believe, and I could be wrong. I'd like to get your opinion here because I'm wrong a lot. Is that
you are from Iowa?
Well, no, that's not. I'm just saying this might be the year we've seen the most parity. I still think Georgia is pretty darn good. Ohio State and Michigan, but I still think there's more, there just seems to be more parity.
Yeah, I don't. You look at see, Georgia doesn't have the regular season game against Alabama this year. That would have been at least within the SEC the interesting common opponent for several of these teams. I mean, right now it's kind of Tennessee.
Yeah.
I mean, Georgia's played Tennessee, Alabama's played Tennessee. And so Tennessee's sitting there, I think they're in 5th place. I think they're
they
fifth.
were.
I think
yeah.
they're fifth in the most recent AP poll.
But you can't screw the AP poll.
Well, I know, but it's fairly close to the playoff poll.
Well, here, I'll pull it up. I mean,
yeah,
at the end of the day, we got to quote we got to do the college football playoff poll.
No, I get it. I hadn't seen that released yet, so I saw
that won't be out till Tuesday.
Yeah, so. The AP poll was out early today, and that's why I'm kind of going off of that as sort of a pseudo measuring stick here. I think Tennessee's kind of that common measuring stick for these teams, and Georgia absolutely dominated them. It's hard for me when you look at Alabama versus Tennessee that Alabama loses. And was that? Correct me if I'm wrong. I thought that was an overtime game.
Which one?
Tennessee and Alabama. Tennessee won.
Yes.
It's either way. It was a late in the game versus overtime win over Alabama in Knoxville. So that's in my opinion, that's almost a wash. So my take on it is when I look at that, I don't think Alabama and Tennessee are that different in terms of quality. But Georgia doesn't play Alabama this year. They did play Tennessee. It wasn't this utter blowout, but I mean the game was not close. Georgia won going away by two or three scores. Yeah. I thought it was like 26-10 or 26-14, something like that. Either way, Georgia beats Tennessee by more than 2 touchdowns. That was a decisive win over a team that I would say Tennessee's at worst fairly comparable to Alabama. I think Alabama's still one of the top 10 teams in the country. Do they deserve to be in the top 4? No. Not at least not at this point. But if you had a 12-team playoff, absolutely, Alabama deserves to be in there. Tennessee deserves to be in there. LSU deserves to be in there.
So here was the college football playoff poll from last week. It will change because Oregon got beat, but Georgia was number 1, Ohio State number 2, Michigan number 3, TCU number 4. I don't see any of that changing, and because Ohio State had a good win. Now they played Indiana. Georgia's going to stay number 1. Michigan easily beat Nebraska. TCU with an impressive win
at Texas. Did you watch that game by any chance?
Yeah.
That was. I thought that was probably a better win than what the score showed. TCU had a late fumble. They got returned for a touchdown, and it was just Max Duggan pulled the ball on a zone read. Yep. The running back thought he was keeping the ball. It popped out. Defender picked it up, raced like 60 yards for a touchdown. It was a gimme for Texas. I don't think that game was as close as the score showed.
Oregon got beat by Washington. So USC is sitting there at 8-1. So what I see happening is I see LSU going up to the number 6 spot. I see USC going to the 7 spot, and that's where it becomes intriguing, right? If USC were to win out, which I think
they got 1 loss.
They've got 1 loss. They lost at Utah. Pretty close game.
And I think that's a pretty good program.
Utah's 13th in the college football playoff poll at 7-2, so it's not a bad loss.
It is not. That is a quality loss.
A quality loss. So it's going to get intriguing with Lincoln Riley's team. I'm just saying, and I'm going to defend the Big Ten here. If Michigan were to go to Ohio State, because that game's at the Horseshoe, and not get blown out, and let's say it's a classic game, I don't see how you could drop Michigan out of the college, or even Ohio State out of the college football playoff.
Yeah, I don't. I think both those teams, whoever loses that game, I think. Again, when you look at the big picture and the other teams involved, I have a lot of trouble bouncing either of those teams out of the playoff.
Yeah, and what's going to happen is this is going to be the classic SEC against the Big Ten, right? And you're going to get – this is going to be like, how come it takes so long to count votes in Arizona? This is going to be ESPN is influencing the SEC because the Big Ten is basically giving the middle finger and going somewhere else. I'm telling you, this will happen.
No, I think it will, but it's just the thing that's interesting about this is you're going to potentially have 2 Big Ten teams in the playoff and 1 SEC team.
Yeah. And that's not
and I'm okay with that.
I'm perfectly okay with that.
Which, I mean, we're both Big Ten guys, so I mean that kind of stands to reason. But now here's the other thing I would say as well. I also think the one SEC team that's going to make it is the best team.
Yes.
I mean, when you look last year, you look at what Alabama did to Michigan in the semifinal. I mean, that was. Boy, that was kind of a beatdown.
It was.
That was a beatdown. Michigan did not look very good against Alabama. So I have no problem saying the SEC's got the best team in the country. I'm perfectly fine with that, but I would have a problem if the loser of the Ohio State-Michigan game does not make the playoff. And part of it is because over the last several years, we've watched the loser of the SEC title game make the playoff. Heck, last year, the loser of the SEC title game won the national title. So there you go.
So you got to watch Michigan. We've talked a lot about Michigan. We haven't talked a lot about the Nebraska game. Your thoughts on your overall thoughts on the game, because your grades came out. You're getting a lot of comments on the grades.
Okay, can we do grades?
Absolutely, we can do grades.
So, hold up, I'm pulling them up on Twitter so I can remember them, because it did kind of like bring up a few questions here. So, so when you look at the grades, well, hold on, I'm trying to find it now. People got the beer tweets running here, so.
Are you having a hard time figuring out your profile?
Well, it's not my profile. It's the fact that I'm going through Twitter.
Yeah.
We post grades. Yes. What do we got here?
Here you go. Here's your grades. I found them just as fast as you.
Okay, I got them right here. Right. But I mean, it's just the number of the number of comments, retweets, and et cetera. It jumbles up my timeline here a little bit. So, okay, Michigan running game C-. So first off, with all of these grades, including Nebraska's running game, the thing you got to take into consideration is who you're playing. And I do grade a little bit on a curve depending on who you're grading. If Nebraska has this performance against Northwestern, against North Dakota, against Georgia Southern, that's like a D- or an F. It really is.
Yeah.
This is against a playoff team. This is against a national title contender. This is against a team that's probably one of the top 2 teams in the conference, which also means it's going to end up going to the playoff. If you win the Big Ten anymore, you're going to the playoff. This year, if you finish second in the Big Ten, you're probably going to the playoff.
If you finish second in the Big Ten East. Because, I mean,
that's it, yeah.
Actually,
I hate to say it. Yeah, second place. Okay. I'll say this. Iowa's going to be the second place team in the Big Ten, according to the Big Ten title game. Well, they are not the second best team in the Big Ten.
No, they have the best defense in the Big Ten.
They might have the best defense in the nation.
In the country. So, everybody says Iowa controls its own destiny. That's an inaccurate statement.
So
Illinois controls its destiny. If Illinois were to win out, Illinois will play the Big Ten championship against the East Division. Here's the problem. Illinois, now with 3 losses, so does Minnesota, so does Iowa, right? Iowa owns the tiebreaker against Illinois, and Iowa and Minnesota will play this weekend. Illinois goes to Michigan this weekend. I don't think Illinois beats Michigan.
I agree.
So at that point,
Illinois is out.
Illinois would be out unless Iowa were to lose to Minnesota or to lose to Nebraska.
Do you think Iowa loses to Minnesota?
That's an interesting game because of what's on the line here, right? I mean, Minnesota still has a shot at the Big Ten West Division title. Because if
Minnesota wins out,
if Minnesota and Illinois loses to Michigan,
Minnesota
would go.
God, that's nuts.
I mean, it is really crazy what's going on here. And I believe Purdue has. Purdue has 3 losses.
Not this year, because now this year the Giants.
Hold on.
So my Giants are staring down a 7-2 start to the season if they hold on against Houston today.
I actually
this and they're in 3rd place in the division at 7-2. But a normal.
So I'm wrong here. Purdue's still in this thing too. Purdue's at 4-3. Illinois is at 4-3. Iowa's at 4-3, and Minnesota. Iowa has a tiebreaker against both Purdue and Illinois. Okay, now Purdue. Now we're assuming that Illinois is going to lose to Michigan. Purdue has.
They're out then.
Yes, Purdue is.
So I think Illinois. I think Illinois is out because I think they lose to Michigan.
So what would happen then? If Iowa were to lose, Purdue has the tiebreaker against Minnesota, having won 20-10. So I'm doing on-air research right now. Purdue has Northwestern left in Indiana. So
they should, quote unquote, win both.
So Purdue needs Iowa to lose and Illinois to lose. Okay. Now Minnesota needs to win out Illinois and Purdue to lose. I mean, it's convoluted, man. It is messed up.
Well, the point I was going to make, this was like a couple of years ago where a 6-11 New York Giants team was 1 game out from winning the NFC East. That was the point I was going to with the Giants. Yeah. That's kind of the Big Ten West right now, where you've got this collection of teams at 4-3 that technically you've got 4 teams still in it.
Yes.
That's mind-blowing to me. All right, back to grade. So running game, it was not good. Quite frankly, it was bad. I don't think it was bad as the passing game. Well, I gave the running game a C-. I gave the passing game a C. I gave the passing game a C for no reason other than the fact they gave up, quote unquote, only 2 sacks.
Yeah.
It's at the point now where I think if teams really, really want to get after it against Nebraska's offensive tackles, there's some basic stuff you can do on third and longs where you can get after them and they're not going to be able to stop you. And I thought Nebraska's job in terms of keeping extra blockers in to protect those tackles a little bit and really limited the damage against what is frankly one of the better defensive lines in the Big Ten. I'm not saying they're the best, but they are one of the better defensive lines in the Big Ten right now. Michigan is outstanding on defense. That is a very, very good defensive football team. And the fact that both in the run game and the passing game, as bad as Nebraska was, given the fact that they were out there for most of the game with a third-string quarterback, and I mean, I don't think you can understate that enough. I mean, I think if Nebraska's out there with Casey Thompson trying to sling it to Trey Palmer, it changes a lot of stuff in this game, and that just wasn't going to happen. The fact that you're there with a third-string quarterback, Purdy goes down with that ankle injury late in the second quarter, it changed a lot, in my opinion, that Nebraska's offense was able to be, again, this sounds horrible to say it, but the fact that they weren't as bad as they could have been is the reason I gave the offense a C grade, offensive line included. I thought they actually did okay. I mean, it's against that defense, the fact that they, quote unquote, only gave up 2 sacks was the reason I didn't give them somewhere in the D to F range. Now, were they able to move the ball effectively? No, not at all. But again, it's against the best team in the conference. I think it's a hodgepodge. It's a patchwork offensive line. Teddy's not out there. Nuelli's not out there. You've got 2 guys who are very good football players who you did have last year for a chunk of the season. When you looked at Prohaska, when you looked at Nuelli, those are 2 guys that I think are probably, I'm going to call it third string all Big Ten caliber. Those are really good
Yeah.
Those are really good offensive linemen, and Nebraska hasn't had them really for any of the season here. And the fact that they weren't out there, that's the reason I gave the offensive line a C, is that you're going against arguably the best Iowa's got the best defense in the conference. Don't get me wrong. Michigan's right up there.
I mean, well, hold on. The Big Ten's loaded with defense. I mean,
it is.
Minnesota's really good. Rutgers has a good defense.
Dude,
Michigan,
Illinois' got a good defense.
I'm just saying, if you look right now at the Big Ten, defenses are absolutely loaded. And I know people are going to call me a homer here. Iowa, to me, stands out amongst the crowd. And, Rob, of all my years of covering college football, it might be one of the best defenses I've ever seen.
It's painful to watch because it's kind of like that 2009, 2010 era for Nebraska where they had that 2010 especially, you had this absolutely amazing defense. And if they could have just scored a few points, that's a title contender. Not just not just Big 12. I'm talking about national title contender.
And that's where
they scored additional 3 points. They got field goal in the Big 12 title game. Nebraska beats Texas and goes to a BCS bowl game. It's painful, but that was an amazing defense. I was in that same boat, so I got to be honest. I totally feel. You look at all Iowa fans. I feel their pain because that's 2010 Nebraska.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the game yesterday against Wisconsin. We'll dive a little bit more into Wisconsin. I mean, Iowa may not win that game, or it's a lot closer than the 24-10 score because Iowa's defense had a pick six. You had a blocked punt that set up another touchdown, and then you had a couple key punt returns that led to scores as well. So it was –
So essentially damn near every score was set up by special teams or defense.
Yeah. And now,
when I looked at, because I just looked at the score and I saw 24-10, I'm like, well, some of those changes on the O-line had a difference.
Rob,
or made a difference.
Iowa won the time of possession. They had 146 yards of total offense.
What was the time of possession? Do you remember?
Oh, I think it was like 4 or 5 minutes more.
So it wasn't a huge one. Well, because Nebraska was down by 11 minutes, I believe, in time of possession.
So, I mean, it's just one of those things where, you always hear I'm speaking from an Iowa perspective. People are like, well, you can't win a national title at Iowa. You gotta do all this. Like, well, hold on. If you can have the best defense in the country, why can't you have the 30th best offense in the country? Why can't you have even the 50th best offense in the country?
What's their offense?
128 out of 131.
God, that's brutal.
It's horrible.
Which honestly, yeah. I mean, if Iowa had, you made some comment to me earlier today. Something along the lines of if Iowa did, in fact, have the 30th best offense in the country,
they'd be unbeaten.
Yes. And we'd be talking about, like, hey, should Iowa be in the top four? They'd be sitting there, honestly. They'd probably be sitting there in fifth place. Well, God, that might be interesting. Would they be fourth or fifth?
But you made an interesting comment, because let's bring it back to the subject of this podcast, because people get sick and tired of me talking about the black and gold. We'll do that in a couple of weeks. But, when we were talking about this before we recorded the Doc's Diagnosis presented by Centris Federal Credit Union, you looked at, I was explaining the scenario for Iowa, and you looked at me and go, Nebraska fans would kill for that right now.
Well, yeah.
They would.
Yeah. Well, and when I say I'm not talking about being 4-3 in the conference, I'm talking about the fact that, I mean, if you really look at Iowa right now.
You would take 4-3 in the conference right now.
Well, we definitely take that. But so Iowa very, very realistically finishes regular season 8-4.
And the Big Ten West Division champions.
As Big Ten West Division champions. But, I mean, if you're a Nebraska fan and somebody came to you and said, like, okay, at this point in time with what we've got down in Lincoln from a coaching and or talent standpoint, you're 8-4, you're Big Ten West champs. Would you take that? And right now, I guarantee every Nebraska fan on the planet, I mean, people would do anything for that.
Yes,
they really would, and I don't blame them. And that's.
But I will say this. And I mean this is positively. They're not that far away. When a new coach, or even if Mickey gets it on a full-time basis, they're not. the well is not as dry as it was at KU or some other places.
No, and I firmly I'm talking about the offensive line alone. Imagine if you had Newelly back and Teddy Prohaska was totally healthy at left tackle. This would be a completely different offensive line. We'd be bitching and moaning about one spot on the O-line. We'd be complaining about right tackle and right tackle only, and that would be it. And then the rest of the time we'd be sitting there and being happy about the fact that if you had those, I think you guys are legitimately worth probably 2 wins at this point, at least, which puts Nebraska at what, 5-5?
Yeah.
So I mean that's 2 guys who are still in the program. It's just one guy's hurt and one guy's suspended.
So up next is Wisconsin. Wisconsin lost to Iowa yesterday, 24-10.
So here's a question: Nebraska?
Yeah.
Interim coach Mickey Joseph.
Okay.
Wisconsin, Jim Leonard. What's your thoughts on Jim at this point?
I think they fired Paul Chryst to get to Jim Leonard. I really do.
I think they were worried about losing Jim.
Yes. Yeah. And I think they could say, here was the downfall. Defensively, I think Wisconsin is solid.
Do you think they sacrificed this season for that end?
I think if Paul Chryst was still the coach, the results would be the same. So to answer your question is, yes, I think they said, you know what, this is – now, it could turn up to blow up, right? You don't know how these can have an impact on what happens.
Well, and here's the other thing. What if Jim Leonard is a really, really, really good D coordinator
and not a great coach?
What if he's Buddy Ryan? He's he's arguably one of the best D coordinators ever.
Or if he's Bill Callahan.
Great O-line coach, not an O coordinator, not a head coach. But I mean, what happens is Wisconsin going to find this out? I mean, obviously, I think they are.
I mean, you roll the dice. You don't know how this stuff's going to turn out. Nobody knew when Steve Peterson fired Frank Solich that it was going to be, you're going to send to college football purgatory.
Oh shit! I was totally worried about this happening.
Well, I was upset.
I think a lot of people were too. That is one of those like, well, man, what did we just do? Is this going to how is this going to backfire or not?
So yesterday,
which honestly, about the point we lost Houston Nutt on the tarmac in Arkansas, I was pretty sure this was going to backfire. So
yesterday against Iowa,
which we haven't finished grades, by the way, we got to work back.
Mertz was 16 of 35, 176 yards. He got sacked.
16 of 35. The fact that they threw it 35 times alone is not Wisconsin football.
No, Allen had 17 carries for 40 yards. Ended up with
And I'm sitting here going like, he only had 17 carries.
Yes. The only rush for 51 yards as a team.
God, that's brutal.
Now,
even I, as a Wisconsin hater, am sitting there going like, what the hell's going on in Madison?
So they had 3 turnovers yesterday. 2 turnovers yesterday, which
you said they had a pick six.
Yeah, the pick six was huge. Where Wisconsin's going to be, it comes down to Nebraska's offense. Hell, you're on your third-string quarterback. You got an offensive coordinator now who's got a bum leg or bum body because he got drilled. You even wonder if
osteoporosis is a bitch.
I just don't know what Nebraska can do offensively against this Wisconsin defense. I don't.
How good? Okay, so let me ask you this. So, scale of 1 to 10. We'll say Iowa's defense is a 10. Let's use that as a measuring stick here. Let's say Nebraska's is like a 3.
Okay.
Where's Wisconsin?
8, 9.
That's pretty damn high. I mean, that's like almost as good as Iowa.
Okay, 7.
Okay.
And the reason I got to say that is because the truth is you can't use Iowa's offense as a good measuring stick.
No, not at all. Yeah. I'm just talking defense only.
Well, but it's hard. When I watched them yesterday, they sacked Spencer Petras 6 times. So you're like, oh,
damn.
Wow. Exactly. So they sacked him 6 times. So you're like, okay, is this but then you got to pinch yourself and go, okay, this is the Iowa offense, which is just not very good. So you have to do a, kind of how you do your grades. Okay, you face the Iowa offense. Are you that good? So I'll give them a 7. How's that? I'll give them a 7 and say that's where they're at.
You've got a shitty offense. Ryan Ferentz running it.
Yeah.
So
all right.
That's the thing that I find interesting here is because I think Iowa does certain things in spite of themselves. And one of those things is they win some football games in spite of themselves.
That's fair.
And what I worry about is, you look at the situation where you've got people like me who I hadn't spoken with you yet. I did not watch the Iowa-Wisconsin game. Well, one, I was watching the Augustana football game. They kicked Southwestern Minnesota State. Good end of season win, 7-4. Solid year. And then I was watching the Nebraska game after that. Once the Augie game ended, I'm watching Nebraska, which was at the same time as the Iowa game.
Yes.
All I see is the score, and I see 24-10, and I'm like, oh, that O-line shuffling that you were telling me about that Iowa did last week, that's continuing to pay off. Look at what they did. And then I sit down and I talk with you, and you're like, no. They might have even taken a step back on offense from the previous week because all 4 scores were essentially set up by the defense and or special teams.
Now, I will say this, where the offense has changed maybe earlier in the year, they couldn't punch it in the red zone.
And
right?
by earlier in the year, you mean 2 weeks ago?
Really 3 weeks ago. I thought they really started turning it around.
That's not earlier in the year.
Well, to me, it is.
That's mid-season.
Okay, but even go back to South Dakota State and Nevada, where they couldn't punch it in the end zone. Yesterday, they got the ball in the red zone, and they were able to use that field position and get in the end zone, which, to me, that's an improvement. There were times the offensive line looked good yesterday. There were times the offensive line didn't look very good. So I think still the switches have helped, but I still think it's a work in progress.
Do you see that changing for Iowa? And I ask that in the sense of, I don't know who Iowa's offensive line coach is currently.
Do I see it changing?
Do I see? Well, they made changes on the offensive line. What did you say? They moved like the right tackle to left guard or whatever.
Yeah. So, I'm trying to think what it was. It was guard to tackle.
Okay. You mentioned last week, was that Purdue?
And they smoked Purdue.
Yeah, so for the Purdue game, you mentioned it seemed like that made kind of a measurable difference in terms of Iowa's offensive productivity.
It did. Made
against Purdue.
But how good is Purdue?
Well, not that good. My question is did you see at all that same kind of, okay, this offensive line is continuing to do well against Wisconsin?
At times, yes. At times, no.
Okay.
I know that it's kind of a wishy-washy answer.
No, but I get it.
Because the Wisconsin defense
is a lot better than Purdue.
Yes.
No, I totally get that. I'm still stuck on this, like, how good actually is Iowa's offensive line? And going forward, I mean, is this like 5 seniors across the board that are going to graduate, and it's going to be like, okay, there's going to be a lot of new blood on Iowa's offensive line. This will be great going forward. Versus now, are all of these guys back next year?
Yes.
And you're
loaded.
And you're just hoping to God they continue to develop.
Yeah, you got Jack Plum, who's a senior. He's 6'7", 297. He graduates. You got Bo.
What position is Jack?
He's a right tackle.
Is he good or not?
Yeah, he's okay. But Bo Stevens is the redshirt freshman at 6'6", 307. Logan Jones, the kid from Council Bluffs, Lewis Central, is the center. He's a sophomore at 6'3". Connor Colby's the sophomore at 6'6", 308. He started the season at right tackle, and he moved to left guard. So he's the one that made.
And you felt that made a difference.
But he got hurt. He got hurt yesterday. That was a tough part. He got.
You know
hurt.
what the injury was?
I think it was an ankle. He ended up leaving.
He'll come back from that.
Yeah.
No, I look at these offensive lines, and you got to look at the personnel, and it can't be just a developmental standpoint because, I mean, some guys, I hate to say it, they don't necessarily develop very well. I look at Nebraska's offensive line, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens because Trent Hickson is gone. This is his 6th year. Use that COVID season. Trent Hickson is gone at center. That is a ton of starting experience that is gone. Now, a big chunk of that starting experience is at guard, but he's got a full season at center. He's gone next year. Hopefully you got Nuelle back. He's a brawler. He's, like I said, he's a guy that, in my opinion, is a candidate for all Big Ten honors. I'm not saying he's first team, but I think he's a kid who picks up honorable mention, second, third string, something like that. Teddy Prohaska, the hope is that he gets past some of these, gets past the injury bug, and Teddy's back at left tackle. But, I mean, if you can lock down a left guard and left tackle with Nuelle and Teddy, that's a really good side of the offensive line. You got to find a center. You're going to have to lock down that right guard spot a little bit better, and you're going to have to hope for development at that right tackle spot, and it's development that we have not seen as of yet. I would even make the argument that Bryce Benhart was a better offensive tackle as a redshirt freshman than he is this year. So you're going to – it's one of those things where you could sit here and go like, hey, we got Hunter Anthony and Bryce Benhart back. That's great. And I'm like, well, I don't know. That may not be great because we haven't seen the development out of those guys that you'd hope to see. And so some of that's going to depend on the coaching staff this offseason. Some of that's going to depend on those guys in and of themselves. And potentially, do you bring in some guys through the transfer portal on the offensive line, which historically, when you look at the offensive line, Power 5 Division I teams tend to not pick up their offensive linemen through the transfer portal. It's a developmental process. Now, I'd love to take a look at University of Montana, and I'd like to go get Chris Walker back in Lincoln at offensive tackle. I'd love to go to Montana and get A.J. Forbes back at center in Lincoln. I'm pretty sure those guys would be like, screw you, we're going to hang out here and be Grizzlies for the last year of our college career.
I mean, do you think Teddy Prohaska is healthy? I mean, the thing with Teddy is he ever going to be healthy?
I don't know. It's kind of one of those things. If you've got, I mean, kind of the analogy that I use is that if you've got a dowel rod that's an inch thick, if that dowel rod is 6 inches long and you hand it to a person and say, snap this in half, there's no physically possible way to do it. If you gave that same inch diameter dowel rod to somebody, but it's 10 feet long, you can snap that in half. You've got the leverage to do that. I worry about a guy who's 6'10" being able to have, I'm just going to call it that leverage-based strength. Yeah. Now, Teddy's a guy that when it comes to the ability to play football, I have never seen a guy with those dimensions get as low as he does to the ground, to have that knee bend, hip bend, and be able to play the game of football like he did last year as a true freshman against Power 5 teams and perform prior to the ACL injury, prior to that knee injury. That injury is still healing. He injured the other knee earlier in the game. I think it was during the Georgia Southern game. He injured the other knee. I think it is a far less severe injury, but an injury nonetheless. And then I think he's got a little bit of a banged up shoulder as well. Those are things where you look at a guy that you start to wonder, are these injuries going to start chipping away at his ability to play the game at a high level? Because when Teddy's healthy, that's an NFL guy. 100% that is an NFL caliber football player. And so I hope to God that stuff heals up because he's really, really good. I can't emphasize that enough. I just don't know if we're getting healthy 2021 Teddy back, or are we getting like RoboCop $6 million man 2023 Teddy back. We're going to have to wait and see what happens. I don't know.
I can't believe we're 55 minutes into this podcast. We're finally going to get around.
I haven't even finished grades yet.
I know. Well, you may not get to it because we're going to
let me do defense real quick because that's the one that has, like everybody comment, couple of things. So there's two things here. One, Michigan's offense is, in my opinion, far better than what we saw on Saturday. It really is. I think we saw I think Michigan's offense, a little bit of a step back on Saturday. That was not the best Michigan offense we've seen, and I think they have performed far better against other opponents. I think they've performed better against better opponents than Nebraska. I think they took a look at that 30-point spread. I think those guys took a deep breath, relaxed a little bit, and that was not the best Michigan offense that you could see. It's those guys are better, and that's one of those things where at the end of the day, I thought Nebraska's defense, a little bit lucky that was the Michigan offense that showed up. The other thing is this is an incredibly handicapped defense as well. I mean, you got a guy like Henricks. Nick is not in.
Yeah.
Makes a huge difference for these guys. You got a true freshman in there playing at linebacker, and he made some huge plays. We go over that on the Doc's diagnosis where there is some very good reason to be hopeful going forward for this defense in terms of the talent that's in Lincoln right now. I like what I see. I mean, I love Ty Robinson. I love Houseman. I love some of these guys on that defense. I've got a lot of faith. Nick Henricks is an insanely tough kid, and he's got a strong mind. He's a very good linebacker. That's a guy that I think is going to come back from this knee injury and perform well. But this is a handicapped defense right now. They don't have all their starters. They are banged up. They don't have an offense to take the load off their back. And the fact that they went out and did not give up the big play, they limited Michigan. Now, the problem is they limited Michigan to like 6 yards on first down and 4.5 yards on second down. Well, that's another first down right there. But they didn't give up the 10-plus yard plays during the course of the game, and they did a good job of that very consistently. And for a defense that is vastly undermanned, that is amazing to me that they did that well against this caliber of offense at Michigan. That's why I gave them the grade they did.
Okay.
I'll admit it's a scaled grade. I'm grading on a curve here. I totally get that, but it is different. Doing this against Michigan versus doing this against Georgia Southern, those are two different things. Now, I understand they lost to Georgia Southern on a late score at the very end of the game versus Michigan covering the largest spread in Nebraska football history. I get that those are two different things. The Michigan team we saw on Saturday, believe it or not, that is not the best Michigan 2022 that's out there. That was a little bit of a letdown Michigan team, and Nebraska did better than I thought they were going to do on defense. Special teams gets their usual B. If they were winning more games, it'd be a B plus or an A.
Yeah.
But hey, there you go.
So we didn't address it, and we're now an hour into this podcast, and we're going to get to it. And that the rumor mill was really running wild. Listen, I'm going to be honest with you. the Deion Sanders thing was cracking me up, and we're getting to this page.
Well, and we had, what was it the week before where we had it wasn't Deion. I think it was like either it was going to be Ruhle.
It was Matt Ruhle the week before.
It was either Ruhle or Aranda was going to get announced.
Listen. People are going to start throwing darts now, and we're at the throwing dart stage. It's getting late in the year. People are getting impatient. And just let me say this, in that I think I know Trev Alberts fairly well. Trev has run this thing beautifully. If you think this thing's getting out before Trev wants it to get out, you're crazy. You're absolutely crazy. He owned the press conference when he fired Scott Frost.
That might have been that was college. I was going to say, if there is college courses in sports or university administration, that press conference alone is like an entire semester.
But Rob, what we're saying
on how to run a press conference.
If you want to know why people are just looking for something to follow right now, you remember the movie The 10 Commandments with Charlton Heston? Remember at the end when they crossed the
that's a great Easter movie.
It is. So when they cross,
you know what that movie is?
Religious?
Not a Christmas movie.
It's not a Christmas movie, but it's a Passover movie. But here's the deal. You remember when they parted the Red Sea and Moses went up on the mountain? Well, he was up there for so long that the people were becoming impatient. They didn't want to wait for Moses to come back, so they crafted the golden calf just to have something to worship and to celebrate. We're at the point now where fan bases and people are
they're looking for a golden calf.
They're looking for a golden calf right now, and they'll leech it. It's Matt Ruhle, the golden calf. Deion Sanders, the golden calf. Stop it. Just stop. Listen, you cannot work in rumors. And I saw a podcast the other day, got 33,000 views, probably more than that, because they did a podcast on the rumor. Listen, they're just rumors.
Wait, now was this Zach Smith's podcast?
I don't know who.
Well,
it was.
Zach was the guy that started which I mean,
that's irresponsible.
Well,
do you think Deion Sanders is getting this job?
No,
it's irresponsible.
Well, hold on. Okay, it's not so much that Deion's not getting it. Deion does not want this job.
You. It does not fit any of the boxes that Deion Sanders wants.
By the way,
yes,
my New York Giants beat the Houston Texans 24-16. I'm a little happy about that. 7-2, baby.
It doesn't fit the boxes of what Deion says he
Why
wants
do you
to
hate
accomplish.
Deion?
I don't. I think Deion needs a Power 5 job. I just don't think white Nebraska is the place to do it. He's passionate about the historically black colleges and universities. He's passionate about providing African Americans a shot at NIL and a different lifestyle. I just don't think Nebraska's that place. Call me crazy. I'm
sitting here and all of a sudden it's like I hadn't thought this before. But I would love to see Deion in Lincoln.
Now he would.
Could you imagine Deion and Mickey Joseph running a football program in Lincoln?
You need an X's and O's guy. You got to go get you got to go get an X's and O's guy. I'm not saying as a head coach, you better bring somebody in who can do the X's and O's.
But I think you need a guy who is I think you need a very, very, very good. Do you know who we need? We need Joe Mowgli in Lincoln. You need a good CEO in Lincoln, and we have not had that at all. Because here's the thing. I actually think defensively, Bo was a pretty damn good X's and O's guy.
Yes, and he developed talent. He's developed talent better than Bill Callahan had great offenses, crappy defenses.
Yeah, well, and Callahan was also, he and his staff were amazing recruiters, John Blake.
Cheater. Now dead.
God damn, dude. Why do you hate Oklahoma?
I don't. I'm just saying.
Okay, but I'm just saying. Okay, anyway. I think Nebraska, they need a program guy. They need a CEO guy. Trev Alberts of coaches.
And first of all, Nebraska needs stability at the athletic department, athletic director position. I think you're going to have that with Trev now. I'm just saying, and Deion may very well end up being the coach. I'm just saying, don't jump at these rumors. Stop trying to craft your golden calf.
Look at where the fucking rumors coming from.
I know.
Dude, I mean, when a somewhat moronic piece of shit human puts the rumor out there, well, am I wrong?
No, you're not.
I'm just saying.
We live in a click.
I'm just
Don't get me
saying,
wrong.
like,
I like it when our videos get 1,000 views.
Name a random national sports journalist. Just give me anybody.
Joel Klatt.
Okay, if Joel Klatt put out there, I have on good account, good source, that Nebraska is in serious discussions with Deion Sanders,
I would buy it a little more.
I'm not saying 100%. I'm buying that like a solid. That's a solid 85% for me.
Listen, Trev's doing this. I'm just saying, Trev. Yeah. I know Trev personally. No,
Trev, and I'm one of those. I totally agree with you. So here's the thing I keep telling people, because all of a sudden my Twitter DMs light up, my text threads light up, and people are like, holy shit, Deion? No way.
Scotty Strunk from Husker Hounds wrote me, truth to the rumor? I'm like,
Scotty texted me too, and I'm like, dude, Scott, really? No, come on,
it's
dude.
The golden calf, Rob.
And
People want something.
It was, and I'm telling everybody, I'm like, dude, everybody needs to take a deep breath here. Look at where this is coming from. I mean, my bottom line is, and I've told so many people this, and I'm telling anybody who listens to this fucking podcast that until you see Trev Alberts
announce who it is,
standing at a podium with some dude next to him at the same podium, and Trev turns to that dude, points to that dude, and says, see this dude standing right here? This is Nebraska's next head coach. Until that happens, I'm not believing jack squat. I might see it if I see a press release from anybody in in-state Nebraska media saying, hey, Nebraska holding a press conference at 3 p.m. this afternoon to announce so-and-so's the head coach. I'm not believing it until I see Trev say that.
Amen. Amen, brother. And that's why stop searching for the golden calf. That's all I'm trying to say is that
going to be the title of this podcast,
Moses
by the way?
is coming down off the mountain pretty soon.
That needs to be the title of this podcast. Stop searching for the golden calf.
Did you like the analogy, though? I was in the shower going, this is
perfect.
Yes.
It's perfect.
But it shows you how people want to believe in something.
We have been lost in the desert for 40 years.
Well, it's starting to seem that way for a lot of Nebraska.
Well, 20.
Yeah, I mean, and people now just want to leech on something. They want to they want to believe in something. They just want news, right? They're not willing to wait until the day after Thanksgiving for a football coach to be named.
And that's the thing that still surprises me about this, is that there is so much talk that people expect this to be a decision that you're going to find out about this like in October or November, early November. I mean, I don't see. I mean, if Trev comes, I mean, because some of these potential candidates are guys that are going to be coaching in bowl games.
Yes.
Or they're going to be leaving teams who are going to bowl games. They're going to be turning everything over to their coordinators, to their assistant coaches, to their replacements to come to Nebraska. This is not going to be this, hey, we're going to know about this early mid-November. No, we're not.
No, it's going to happen the weekend after, or the week after the Iowa game. That's when it's going to happen.
At the least. I mean, at the earliest.
Yeah, at the earliest.
I mean, I think Trev would like to have that decision made as soon as possible after the season ends. I'm just saying, don't be sitting here during the second week of November thinking this is going to be something we're going to find out.
Hey, we want to welcome back to the Doc Talk podcast because he took a little hiatus. Who knows what shit you had going on in your life? But I mean, I think you've had a hell of a year, Chad Carr, from Tickets for Less now. Tickets for Less. It was always Ticket Express, and Chad's, fuck it, I'm selling. right?
I did. I almost spent it 30 years.
Hey, important questions right off the bat. I got to ask you, what are you drinking?
I am drinking the Koala Tears.
Damn.
And it's really good. It has took
Trav's advice.
I took Trav's advice and been hanging out with his fam, and his wife suggested that, and it's really good.
Did you talk to my son about the Iowa tickets?
I did not talk. I talked to him about everything else other than the Iowa tickets.
Yeah, so I don't think they've purchased yet. So it's, but Chad, you jumped on the podcast late. You got in like the last 5 games, but why was it time to sell, and what's different from Tickets for Less from Ticket Express?
Great question. Basically, I started Ticket Express November 3rd of 92. So 30 years ago is when I started.
That was 1992.
And I was a senior in college then. So it's been, kind of a really great ride, and we weren't for sale, but yet at the same time, everything's for sale. And they approached us, about a year ago, and we started having conversations, and then everything kind of came together pretty quickly back in March, and it's just been a really great fit. We still have our office 1 block north of 90th and Center, so if people want to stop by, and see us, they can still do that. The name's changed, but really a lot of the things have not changed a whole heck of a lot. Basically, we're a lot deeper now in what we can cover. Obviously, we can still do College World Series, Nebraska football, Creighton basketball, all that good stuff. But the relationships that Tickets for Less has across the country, all over the place. Like, we have offices in St. Louis. We have an office down in Alabama, and just the relationships with the schools, the teams. We have a much, much, much more inventory than we've ever had before.
Which is kind of impressive to me, because I'm thinking about, I mean, this was a handful of years ago, but I got Spurs tickets through you guys. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, I'm going to this, I'm going to that. That's kind of impressive for you to say that. When I think about how when you looked at Ticket Express, I always viewed that as man, if I need tickets for anything, I can get it from you guys. And I never had problems getting that. Like I said, it was one of those, it was a quick, mildly unplanned weekend trip. Hey, we're down here. Let's catch a Spurs game. Call up Ticket Express. Boom. Got my 2 tickets. We're rolling. The fact that you're talking about tickets for less, and saying, hey, we've got better reach. We got better inventory now. That's kind of saying something.
Yeah. And, basically we didn't have a bad entity or a bad company. Otherwise, they wouldn't want to have merged with us and purchased us. But yet at the same time, it's just been a really fun transition, a great transition. And, basically we have better connections for things that people really want to go to, whether it's the Super Bowl, the Final Four, the Masters, any of that stuff.
Kind of some of these big ticket events. I mean, pun unintended when you say that, but I mean, it's some of these name events.
Yeah. And, the Terrence Crawford fight is coming up here December 10th. That's going to be another really big thing. We never really thought we'd get another fight here in Nebraska, but we're doing local stuff, we're doing national stuff, and it's just been a really, really fun transition, really fun ride.
Probably less stressful for you now too, right?
It has been. So absolutely.
But I think we need to and even though people need to understand that it's still local too. You haven't lost that local flavor. I stopped by your office the other day. You got your staff in the office, and it's still, nothing really has changed. So you're still buying local when you buy from Tickets for Less.
Absolutely. And, basically the key is that we have remained, very consistent over the past 30 years about, not only how we treat the people that are looking to purchase tickets, but the people that want to sell tickets to us as well. And those are really the key relationships that we have. A lot of people think that we start off with a big stockpile of tickets, and when they're gone, they're gone. we get new tickets in and out every day. And they just announced earlier today that the Wisconsin game is going to have an 11 a.m. kick. And so, there's going to be more tickets on the market, which is a good thing if you're wanting to buy tickets, because you're going to be able to get in below face value very easily for the Wisconsin game this week.
So, and if you want to go to the Wisconsin game, which is the final home game of the year, you can go online to ticketsforless.com. When you purchase your tickets, you're going to get a below face value most likely, and then you're going to put in the promo code called DocTalk, and you're going to save even.
Basically, you put in that promo code and you save 5% over the total purchase price, and that's not only good for Nebraska football, that's good for anything. So, if you're wanting to, go see Taylor Swift next year on one of her stadium dates, you can see that. If you want to go see, Elton John or anybody else who's coming around, you can save 5% off your total purchase price with that promo code.
Now, there's no fees as well at Ticket for Less.
Yeah,
right?
There's no fees. And basically that was one of the things that, was really important to me as far as the part of the negotiation was concerned, is because in, our 29, 30 years in business, we've never had a service fee where you're surprised at the end of the transaction. I was looking at I think it was a Foreigner show that is coming up at the Ralston Arena, Liberty First Arena. And, their per ticket fee on the last page all of a sudden jumps up to like an $18 per ticket service charge.
I mean, before because Owen and his girlfriend didn't know that, I knew you.
Yeah.
Right. And she was looking at StubHub the other day for Iowa ticket. It was a $30 fucking fee at the end.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And
$30
basically,
on
on StubHub, it was $30 fee.
That's a 30%. I mean, if that was a Husker ticket, that's a 30% fee. That's huge.
Yeah.
Well, and our thing is that,
and I get, as a second, third hand broker, you've got to make some money. I'm not saying that, but when you're sitting there and saying, hey, there's going to be, oh, by the way, after we take our initial markup, this, and that, there's an additional 30% markup. That's huge.
It actually is more than that, because I remember the ticket, she was looking at a $49 ticket. At the end, it was a $30 fee.
That's crazy. And
I got season tickets at Nebraska. Face value on my season ticket. Well, actually, I stand corrected. It's like $50 per. So it's like 2 season tickets are $100. But that's mind blowing though, that you'd have that kind of markup.
But see, that's what makes Ticket for Less stand out from the crowd. You're not going to get that.
Well, and nobody likes surprises. Like if you're going and booking an airline ticket, the price that you see on page 1 is going to be the same price that you're going to see on the final page. But unfortunately, in our industry, a lot of our competitors have kind of figured out that they can trick people. And then on the very, very last step, once you put your credit card in, not after, but once you put your credit card number in, then you can see what the final price is. We want that process to be transparent, and we've always felt like that's the way it needs to be. And, sometimes we lose some sales from that because people will say, you're not as cheap as, Vivid Seats or StubHub or whatever the case may be. But in all actuality, we're, 99% of the time less expensive than anything that you're going to see out there.
Chad, it's I'm glad you came back on the podcast. We've changed a lot since you were one of the original ones. We got video now.
I know. It's all fancy dancy. So I love it.
You do look good on YouTube.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
What's that?
You look good on YouTube.
Thank you. Yeah, no, this has been a blast, and I was glad that I could come out today and join the podcast, and you guys do a great job. And the one thing I will say is that that Deion Sanders rumor was running pretty rampant on Friday.
You started that?
I did not, but you guys could drop so many names so easily just to kind of get more interest and more views, and you don't.
No,
you're honest with the listeners and everybody that I talk to that listens to the podcast on a regular basis. That's what they love about you guys.
Well, we try. We just stop chasing the golden calf. Is what
and I'm one of those guys that Dude, I've been saying this from the get-go. We're not going to know who it's going to be. Like I said, until Trev points to that guy next to him at the podium and says, I'd like to introduce so-and-so as Nebraska's next head coach, we're not going to know who it is.
Yeah.
Which I got to ask you, what would you think if it was Deion?
I'd be surprised. I mean, I really
Would you
be surprised.
like it, though, or not?
From a ticket sales standpoint, I would love it.
Yeah.
I would love it to get, kind of a marquee name in here. I think that, when Bill Riley was, or Mike Riley, sorry, when he was announced, a lot of people were kind of scratching their heads saying, who's that?
Well, that's because Sean Eichhorst was an idiot.
Yeah.
I mean,
But-
I'd be fine with the nondescript head coach as long as they're a great head coach. I'm perfect. I mean, look, it's not like Lance Leipold is this like Broadway Lights name guy. It's not like Chris Kleiman is this Broadway Lights kind of name guy. I would take either of those guys in a heartbeat right now.
because they're good coaches.
They're
That's
good
why.
coaches. Yeah, I mean, I just want a good coach. I mean, there's a reason Deion Sanders, there's a reason his nickname's Neon. I get it.
But you know what?
He's
Value that comes with that.
there for a guy like him there is, but at the same time, he's also shown that whether he can coach or not, he's at least shown he can get some decent coaches to come in and work.
You know
him.
what made Tom Osborne so great? Is he had great people around him. You know what made Hayden Fry so great? He had great people around him. Great.
Yeah, although I would also say about Osborne, the guy micromanaged everything. So in terms of running an offense, if you told me, hey, we got a new O coordinator, it's Tom Osborne, I'd be like, guess what? He can do that.
Okay.
Does it quite well.
All right. Chad, good catching up, my friend.
Good to see you guys.
All right, buddy. Well, we got one more of these to do this year, so we'll have you back.
That
Right
sounds
before
good. I'd love to come back.
Cool. Chad Carr from Tickets for Less.
Chad loves beer.
He does love beer. Loves beer a lot. So, so it's always good. Go to ticketsforless.com. That's ticketsforless.com. You're probably going to find some Husker tickets for less than face value coming
There
up
you
for
go.
the Wisconsin game.
Well, although that might be just a function of the Husker ticket itself.
Well,
But
that's true.
I like the fact that, like I said, I went to Ticket Express in the past.
Yeah.
And it was occasionally these short notice, kind of obscure things like, hey, I need 2 tickets for such and such. You guys got anything? And it was always like, yeah, where do you want to sit? Do you want box seats? Do you want to just be up high? Do you want to be down low right near the stage? Tell me what you want. We've got them. And that's one of those things that we've always been able to get. That's something that Chad's always been able to get. The fact that when he says you look at Tickets for Less is going to have even more reach to get and provide that, that's one of those things where I look at that, I'm like, boy, this might be kind of fun to play around with moving forward in terms of sporting events, entertainment, stuff like that. It's all good stuff. So
we're now waiting for Connor Orr to come on up.
Connor needs to get his ass over here.
So, Connor, with Orr, Horrigan, and Flenty, Connor, sit your ass down. All right, so I just want it to be known that I've told Dr. Rob probably 5 to 10 times to give you a call about this.
And I never did. I didn't do it.
But see, he thinks I'm not doing my job.
I'm
not reaching out.
I'm kind of big time, Trev. I'm a known entity.
I know you're a known entity.
People know me.
But I try to play connector, and for some reason you're not letting me connect.
I call you back when I decide I'm calling.
I see. That's what it is, Connor.
Actually, I just got busy. It's fourth quarter, dude. It's deductible season.
Well, it's not a big deal.
This is like when your accountants guys doing your taxes. This is like March and April for those guys. This is us for doctors.
See, it's just nailed into our head as attorneys. Follow up with the client. Follow up with the client. So it's literally I have calendar ticklers to be like, okay, text Trav. Because if I don't, you just lose track of it, right?
100%.
So your NIL symposium's coming up this week, right, at the University of Nebraska Law School. What's going to happen as you talk about NIL to the students and everybody down there?
So really, this is kind of a brainchild of how do we get more resources to the kids? I mean, we all went to college. You go in and 10 minutes into class, you're jacking around online or texting, or back in your days, you're talking about the invention of the wheel and whatnot.
Yeah, I used mail back then.
But
It's amazing how well rubbing two sticks together works when you want fire.
But point is, what we really wanted was a basic toolkit. If they have classes. Lincoln's got it really well set up, and it's different when you can just get everything down to like 90 minutes. Something that people can pay attention to. If you listen to nothing else, here's a collection of people that are actually involved in NIL at Lincoln. Some of them at multiple universities, some of them at Creighton and Lincoln and UNO, that know what they're doing. They've had their hands on these contracts. They've had their hands on these deals. And we just want to share the basics of the knowledge and provide a list of names and contacts that, hey, if you have a question, reach out. Because, we've seen a few of these contracts come in that these kids are signing. And you guys know enough about contracts that the primary reason they exist.
Yeah, you know what I know? I know not to sign them anymore.
Not without talking to an attorney.
No, I just told my last one I'm not signing. So that was a good way to do it.
Was it Pat?
No, it wasn't Pat. It was, Pat would represented me. Yes, he did, and he told me not to sign it. So I told the person I'm not signing it.
Well, if Pat told you not to sign it, it's probably good advice. But we've seen a few of these contracts come in. I kid you not. There's one we read that was a good form, but the kid agreed for $2,000 to $3,000 was all he was paid out to indemnify. And I'm not going to throw anybody in the bus, indemnify a Fortune 500 company from any and all third-party claims. So if somebody sues the company for the content that they told the kid to put out, he has to pay for their attorneys and pay for the verdict. That's insane.
See, and how many people don't know this stuff, right? I mean, and was he already represented by the collective?
He was not.
Okay.
No, this was an individual deal.
Okay.
But point is, you got a 19-year-old kid, a 20-year-old kid.
They're not going to know that.
No,
because you're thinking, what's $2,000 or $3,000, right? I mean, you're like,
well,
okay.
for a 19-year-old kid, that's a shit ton
No,
of
but
money.
what I'm saying from signing, why do I want to go to a lawyer to look at this when it's only $2,000 or $3,000? Now, it's not worth my time. I don't
Agreed,
just have to pay lawyer fees. Sure, I'll sign that. Not reading the fine print.
Well, and then especially on all these one-off deals, like they're like, hey, this is just money in my pocket. No. Now you need to go talk to an accountant. If you're not withholding anything and you're just going to get 1099 at the end of it, because the business is going to want to write off. In these kids need at a bare minimum. Here's people who know what they're talking about. If you have questions, call them. And if you guys want to transition into it, one thing have you read the new guidelines that they put out there? So the NCAA recently put out new guidelines on this, and a lot of it was all well intended, and a lot of it I think was very good. But there's one that I take a lot of issue with, and that's that they're limiting what the university can provide at like the law school, business school level to these kids. They're saying they can't get free advice.
From an advisory standpoint, the university's got limitations placed.
So essentially what it says is if it's not available to everybody at the university and it's only available to athletes, you can't do it.
Well, hold on. You know how much is available to athletes is not available to the rest of the university?
Correct.
Training table, a specialized weight room, tutors galore, flights to where the next game is. That's so stupid.
Okay, come on, dude. Actually, at Nebraska, any student can eat at the training table.
For free?
Well, no. I mean,
okay.
Said like 50% the cost above and beyond.
How many people got the actual tutoring services that athletes got?
No, and I totally get that. I obviously I say that tongue in cheek. The thing that I find that's kind of interesting is that I remember when I was in school down in Lincoln, there was, in fact, an actual university-based, through the law college, legal advisory board that if you as a UNL student had a legal issue, you could go through this legal advisory board it was basically legal advice on any specific issue. I mean, if you had a DUI and got in a car wreck and you needed advice, you'd go through the legal advisory board.
Well, and all it is baseline advice.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing is that they're missing, the NCAA missed it again. They're missing an opportunity to grow hands-on learning for the students of the law schools, the business schools, entrepreneurial programs. They can use this as hands-on learning. Because advising them now is no different than what they're going to do when they get out in the real world, as opposed to just doing everything from a textbook. So I'm pounding the drum of you missed it two ways. You missed baseline advice for the athlete, and you missed an opportunity to grow practical learning for the student body.
Not only practical, but real world, which you never get in college, right? Real world experience is hard to come by. It just is.
Well,
I mean, how many times did you go into a simulation lab? Yeah, it's simulation, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
Sticking a needle.
100%. But at the same time, too, I look at the NC2A and I look at it from the standpoint of the NC2A having opportunities for survival. And I'm talking about the NC2A itself, like where the NC2A itself could look at these situations and say, hey, here's a place where we can evolve and exist in the modern world of college athletics. And it's like they keep taking these opportunities and throwing them away.
And here's a workaround that in reading their rules, I think there's enough space for it. So let me use an analogy to start, because I think I'm past the statute of limitations on this. In high school, we had open football camps so that we could have padded practices earlier than we probably should have. They were open to the public. We weren't required to advertise them. Do you see where I'm going? So I think there's still enough wiggle room to say, well, it's open to everybody. They just chose not to use it. And it doesn't say you have to advertise it that way. So I'd like to see somebody challenge it.
There's technical stuff there that exists.
So I think you can work around it, and I hope people try, because I think what Lincoln had prior to this and what Creighton was developing, what UNO was developing, I think was good for the student body, good for the athlete. And so I hope they go to challenge it in some interesting fashion, because I just think there could have been a way to tailor it, because what they were trying to do was keep the athletic departments from abusing it. And I think they could have tailored it, well, as long as the athletic department's not directly involved in that advice for this point in time, then it's okay.
Who cares if they're involved at this point in time? I mean, to me, I say you get rid of these stupid collectives and just let the universities pay them. I'm becoming more in favor of the employee model more and more. I really am.
It'll get there.
It's probably a bet. Well, I don't know, Connor. You tell me if I'm wrong when I say this. It's like one of the questions that came up really early on when it came to sort of like pre-NIL discussions of compensating athletes in some way, shape, or form. Oh, well, how are you going to handle taxes? And it's one of those things I'm sitting here going like, well, you know what? If the universities take the money and actually pay the athletes directly, it's in my mind, it's you're going to have your standard withholding. You're going to there you go. It's going to be it's going to streamline that process way more than it is currently. And it seems like a much better way, a far easier way to regulate it than what we've got right now.
I agree, because it's no different than plugging in another employee into payroll.
Exactly.
And obviously, universities have enough employees. That's simple. Now, so from a practical standpoint, I think that's a really good point. But
and that's been used as an argument against NIL and universities paying athletes. And I'm sitting here going like, that's not an argument against. That's an argument for.
Agreed. And especially from a withholding standpoint, it makes all the sense in the world. I do think you're eventually going to get to some, whether it be an independent contractor model or whether it be direct employee of the university. Time's going to tell. The regulatory reworking that we're going to have, especially with Title IX and everything.
I think that's what's holding it up.
Correct.
Title IX, because I mean, how much do you pay? What's the worth of one individual? What's the worth of your superstar as opposed to a guy who's on scholarship but never played?
I do, and I understand that argument in terms of
but here's the argument:
the universe
football fucking pays the bills.
It does, although it's kind of interesting though, when you look at a school like Nebraska,
Am I wrong?
No.
where women's volleyball, from an NIL standpoint, there's some of the better money. I mean, are they Casey Thompson?
No.
But there's some of the better money makers within the collective scope of all student athletes at a university. At a place like a Big Ten school like Nebraska, the volleyball players are higher on that list.
Ray Gun, and you guys are wearing 2 Ray Gun shirts. Ray Gun is big into the NIL sphere. They Markowski's got some ray gun gear. A couple volleyball players have some ray gun, and that's the way. And I think that's the way we envision NIL, right? You get a nice, little, cute little T-shirt. You go sell them. You get some of the proceeds. You get that. I mean, that's the way we envisioned it. We didn't envision the collectives that are taking place and the hundreds of thousands of dollars that are being paid for football players. And by the way, it doesn't always work. Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M put up $38 million last year. They said, and look at that. That dude's won 3 games. And his buyout's $96 million.
Just as good as Nebraska.
Hey,
on the flip side, we could get Jimbo Fisher's Nebraska coach. I want to start that rumor right now.
The golden calf. There you go.
What's the buyout at now?
$96 million.
Man, that's nothing.
Shit.
That's what's scary is we look at like Kirk Ferentz and we look at Jimbo Fisher, and those guys somehow work deals to ensure that they will never get fired.
Well, I mean, at least Kirk Ferentz has been there 22, 23 years now, right?
And as a tracker, and guess what? He's going to win the Big Ten West this year.
Yeah, I mean, the goal in there, his incentive is to win 7 games. That's it. That's where he gets a bonus.
Yeah.
What is the bonus?
It's like a couple $100,000.
Just a little bit of money.
Yeah.
Okay.
little bit.
Dude.
Well,
It's like $200,000.
No, I got to go back and look. I don't know what exactly.
Like, give me what you think it actually might be.
It might
Just
be
pure curiosity.
It might be another $500,000 to win 7 games or something.
No, here's a
Wait,
question.
500,000 is more than a couple 100,000.
I know that. I've had a couple beers. Stop it. I don't have the contract on.
Okay, do you understand?
But-
in 1997, Tom Osborne, his total package in 97 was $250,000. And the only reason it was $250,000 because he had a $50,000 bonus for winning the national title.
Things have changed. Haven't
He
they?
won his 3rd national title and picked up an additional $50,000, which he promptly distributed amongst his assistant coaches.
I get it. I understand it. And all his shoe money went to the assistant coaches too, right?
All the camp money,
Yeah.
everything went to those guys.
So here's a question for you on that, Rob. Because I was 6 years old in 1997. What did a 6-pack of beer
Okay,
cost
that
in
made me
1997?
feel really bad about the general state of affairs. Okay, one, I did not buy beer by the 6-pack. I bought it by the case. And a case, I was a Keystone Light guy.
Oh,
There you go.
God.
No bitter beer face, baby.
God, dude. All right. So who are you?
Okay, well,
Can
it
you
was
say who you represent? yet?
it was usually depending on the sale and where you went, whether it was Food for Less or Super Saver in Lincoln. It was either $4.99 or $5.99 for the case. Now, here's my question, Travis.
Yeah.
You're going to say Busch Light, aren't you?
For what? What was my 6-pack?
Yeah, like any question, the answer is going to be
No,
Busch Light.
I was horrible. You know what we ended up doing at Grandview is that there's a quick shop right down the street from my dorm. I just went down and got a 40 old style.
Damn. Actually, you got a couple of those beers like PBR and Old Style. It's like my
There
younger
was nothing like drinking a 40, man. There was
dude. My brother always had the line. He goes, there's a reason PBR won a blue ribbon at some point. So
exactly.
So we've got a couple of athletes we represent.
Who you representing?
So we've represented Nolan Sullivan and Tyler Weiss at UNO so far.
Okay. UNO hockey.
UNO hockey.
Okay.
UNO now has its own collective. It is just formed. We are setting up meetings with them. And I think they're going to be interested in both individual and group deals. And there was a really interesting one that called me because one of our athletes reached out to them. There is a Division II and FCS collective that formed out of Sioux City. So the Gooseman Law Firm called us, and they said, hey, one of your athletes reached out. We found out they were represented. we wanted to let you know, like, hey, we didn't talk after we found out they represented. I was like, oh, thanks. You know, what were they calling you for? And they actually represent one that wants to be a collective for all of Division II, all of FCS, because I told you guys it was coming. Everybody, the lower level sports are going to get involved. They have to. And if you want to recruit, if you want to be able to recruit, you have to get involved. So they're going to try a shotgun approach, from what I understand, and get after all D2, FCS, smaller programs. And I don't think they're sport specific. So I was really excited to hear that. But our first deal that we did with Tyler and with Nolan was with a beer and pretzel hockey league team. So Team AU sponsored them.
Nice.
So, which I thought was super on brand for hockey.
You just said a beer and pretzel hockey league.
BPHL. It's the men's league here in Omaha.
Nice.
So they've got a number of former UNO players, and I think they took the right approach. A lot of it was like,
where are they playing at?
They used to be out of Tranquility, but I think BPHL now is out of Ralston now.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah. Because there's 3 sheets of ice at Ralston. Well, 2 technically.
Yeah,
Right?
Tranquility was where I was gonna. That's kind of where you were gonna tell me. But.
So they used to have. I played the last year of it was Masha. They used to have full contact men's league.
Nice.
Those guys are nuts. I was like 9th or 10th grade and dropped in and played with them. And old UNO player Lampman came in, and that was the last game I wore my old chest pad because it was too short. You could read "Made in Canada" on my stomach when he hit that slap shot on it.
Nice.
You could read it. It was awful.
Made in Canada. I like it. Connor, I appreciate you stopping by. Always good stuff. We're going to do one more of these. We'll be down at the cross train down at Papillion probably before the end of December. Always good catching up with you. You happy with everything? You good?
Absolutely.
Good.
And I'm gonna shamelessly plug the NIL thing one more time.
Oh yeah, no, go ahead.
And so it's gonna be on the 18th at the law school, 12 o'clock.
Anybody can go.
Anybody can go. There's an Eventbrite that's out there, so sign up so that we get enough food for you. But we're gonna have we're flying in Dan Lust, who's going to be the guest speaker there. Chris Brown speaking. Mike Zorb's going to speak. You've probably never heard of Mike, but he's the brains, one of the brains behind Open Doors. He's going to be there. Steve Nebbia from Lutz is going to be there.
Yep.
Partner Tom Horgan's going to be there. His brother Jack Horgan, who's a genius when it comes to any SaaS agreements. Don't ask me what that stands for. That's outside of my lane.
SaaS would be what open source technology stuff, right?
Great. They're all technology contracts, but in proprietary information.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a ton of brain power in the room. And I'm really excited. I think we're going to have good attendance.
Good. Well, congratulations on everything. And we met in the summer. Your life has changed so much, and this has taken off like I think you knew it was going to take off. And I think more and more good stuff's going to come. OHFlaw.com. He still does some litigation. Get him now because he's going to be a full-time sports agent pretty soon. He won't be able to go to court for you. So thanks for stopping by, buddy. Appreciate it. Yep. Can you do me a favor? Can you tap him on the shoulder and come over and tell him to come talk beer with me? Absolutely. Yeah, that's right. So we are at Cross Train. We are at the DraftWorks, the Millwork Commons DraftWorks. And before we get out of here, we want to talk about the beer that we have and then talk a little beer. Because our buddy Jeff Hardy, he decided to go.
He and Jessica are going out of town.
Yeah,
what the hell?
I know.
Probably go watch Michigan State play. A sport somewhere.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. They're at Indianapolis for that tournament, like Duke and.
Oh, so they did go there for the basketball tournament.
Correct. Yeah, they did.
So I kind of always suspected that. Okay, it's going to be. They're both big Tom Izzo fans, so I kind of figured it's like Jessica's dragging Jeff off for somewhere where Tom Izzo's at. They're going to be there.
So I should remember your name, but I don't. So.
My name is Doug. I'm the general manager across Train.
Oh, nice, Doug. And I did have that email that was Doug. What's your last name, Doug?
Veskurna.
Veskurna?
Yep.
What nationality is that?
Czech.
I was going to say it sounds rather Slovak.
Yep.
I'm sitting here going like, I like him already.
I love DraftWorks. I love Millwork Commons. This is great. I tell you what, I had this Koala Tears. Is that what it's called?
Yep.
This is banana and vanilla. And
they actually kill 2 koalas.
You know it.
For each beer.
See, Rob, people are going to believe you.
Yep.
And you're going to have to deal. I see.
100%. And Deion Sanders, Nebraska's next head coach.
You heard it right from Zach Smith.
So how many,
Exactly. Zach Smith kills koalas.
So how many beers does DraftWorks have of its own going right now?
Right now, we're actually completely full. We've got 29. One of them is CO2 for our crowler machine, but we have 29 beers on tap.
Wow,
We have a lot.
What's the big seller right now, especially as it gets colder? Because a lot of people wouldn't drink this when it gets cold.
Correct. No.
I will, because Rob and I like
That
sours
thing is
like year-round.
that thing is freaking delicious.
Yes, it is. But no, this time of year, you're getting to that more malty, roasty stuff. So our Dunkel is a dark, like German beer.
So that
German
might
lager.
be. So that's like your brown.
Kind of. It's a little more.
Yeah.
It's a little more chocolatey than like a
Okay.
normal brown. And then we also have a oat stout on, like an oatmeal stout. So it's like
love.
super roasty. You know, definitely this time of year, once we get.
So you and I kind of Trav and I kind of got into the stouts there for a while because we were doing all the recordings.
Oh yeah,
People
like-
send us beer from all around the country.
I know that's a good thing.
But we were doing all of our recordings at like 9 a.m. on Sunday for a while there, and it was one of those. Okay, well, it's either going to be Bloody Marys or like breakfast stouts.
There you go.
So we went to stout. We
Yeah.
were living the stout life for
Yep.
a while there.
Yeah, we're gonna have some good ones coming out here pretty
Okay,
shortly.
awesome.
Like what? Like what?
It's-
Give us a tea.
We have a cherry pistachio coming out pretty soon, very soon.
God, that just sounds like a giant Christmas slap in the face.
It's fantastic.
Anything peppermint?
Oh, dude,
We
no.
maybe have a special keg or two of a peppermint beer.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
You're gonna be surprised at how well this turns out.
Oh, I don't know, dude. Let me ask you this. Okay, October just ended. Do you guys do a pumpkin beer, pumpkin ale?
We did one for the first time ever this year.
How'd it go over?
Well, it went over ridiculously well. But we had a special event out west that one of the owner's wives had a big pumpkin festival where we sold pumpkins and hay bales and corn stalks and all that fun stuff. So they wanted a pumpkin beer. So we did 15 gallons of it. So we did one keg of it.
15 gallons.
Yes.
That's it.
That's it. And we sold out that day.
That does not sound like much.
It's not. It's just one. It's your normal one size of keg. It's your one keg.
Okay.
It's one keg.
So with Thanksgiving right around the corner, what would be if somebody wants to come to either the store in is it Papillion or La Vista?
La Vista, Texas.
Okay,
It's weird. It's on that weird borderline there.
Or even down here to DraftWorks. What beer would you recommend for the Thanksgiving feast?
So you can either go one of the two ways. Either the dark would go with the Dunkel or the oatmeal stout. It's called
Okay.
Brick Shot because one of our guy who made that, he's a big basketball fan and he's the Denver Nuggets guy. And we were just laughing about the LA Lakers and just how terrible they've been, which has been fun to laugh at and stuff like that. So that's why we named that one Brick Shot. But other than that, we also have our Hell's Creek, our lager base that we have cranberry and cinnamon added to it. It's fantastic. Light tartness from the cranberry comes in there, but it's not overwhelming. You get the nice juiciness from there. And that cinnamon just gives you a little bit of warmth, and it's not overwhelming. Like I know some people think about cinnamon and they're like,
Yeah, I don't want the
much.
pumpkin. I do not
No.
want the pumpkin spice latte of
Nope.
beer.
Correct. No, it's not
That's
that.
the thing I do not want.
No,
Okay.
It's slightly tart with that cranberry, and the cinnamon just adds a nice warmth to it. Kind of rounds out that tart.
Okay.
It's fantastic. That's our inflatable snowman. That's really good. We actually canned
Okay.
that this year.
Well,
This
I
is
was going to say
second year we've done
I
it.
saw that one up on the menu board
Yep.
here. So it's
That's-
been rolling through.
Yep. Second year we've done it. We canned it this year. So 16-ounce cans.
Now I'm biased, but yeah, both locations are awesome. But this is still my favorite because it's super cool.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's growing and things like that. Like, Coneflower's in here the other day. They're having some beers, and they're getting really close to opening down here.
They haven't done that yet. I think they were supposed to do it like a long time ago.
They were, everything else happened. They ordered their cooler like 8 months ago, and it was supposed to be here within like a couple months, and then it got pushed back and pushed back. So like that was a major hang up. Like they have to build like everything kind of around their cooler.
Yeah.
So they couldn't, they finally got it in. So now they're getting close. And then there is another business. I can't announce it yet because it's not me and stuff like that, but there is going to be something down here, some food options
Oh, good.
that are coming shortly.
All right.
So that'll get announced here soon.
Which is going to be huge because when I sit around and I think about this, I'm always like, well, what food truck's going to be here today?
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Is Willie Dogs going to be down here? Is there like I got to have something to eat.
Yeah, so it's coming here shortly. That'll get announced. The rumor I heard will be in a week or two that's going to drop that big announcement. So we're very excited. It's an awesome local option. It's pretty much a lot of the building here sticking local.
Yep.
With R-Type Coffee and Sweet Vanilla Bakery and us. Keeping cone flour, keeping a lot of things localish. That's kind of what it's turning into.
Well, Doug, that's super cool. Remember, everybody, that beer is a great holiday gift.
Yes, it is.
You can give it for Thanksgiving, give it for St. Nicholas Day. I don't know if do you do St. Nicholas on the December 6th? We do. And we also do Christmas. So you can give a gift of beer.
Wait, what's St. Nicholas Day?
It's the Feast of St. Nicholas.
Okay.
Which is very popular in the Czech and German communities where you would, some use shoes, some use stockings.
Because all of you justices, you guys are all hardcore Czechs.
She's a kotira. My wife's a kotira.
I don't even know.
I know that is.
That sounds Spanish.
it does.
It's Czech.
Sounds.
She's more Czech than you.
Oh, jeez.
Damn, that's dropping it hard.
Yeah, it
I'm
is.
just saying.
I'm just saying. She's more Czech than
All
you.
right, there you go.
Well, and along those lines, real quick, we're actually going to have like a special holiday pack from the Guild.
Oh, cool.
We're like a 12 thing, and like some of them will be breweries that don't get like a ton around here, where we're doing some special stuff with that, and then
You're bringing some other people's stuff in.
Mhm.
Nice.
So yeah, it's a Nebraska thing that we're doing some breweries that you normally don't like see out there and things like that. So we're going to drop them. We're going to have a 12-pack of an advent calendar for sale. So as Travis was saying,
Wait, when is this coming in? Because guess what
Probably
I love?
the start of Advent.
Guess
right
what I
at-
love? Beer advent calendar.
yep. So we're going to drop it the week of Thanksgiving. We're going to drop it the week of Thanksgiving.
Okay, that's next week, dude.
No, it's a couple weeks
A week and
Like-
a half. Yeah.
10 days away, correct?
It's a week and a half.
because I
correct.
believe the following Sunday is the start of Advent.
That's right.
Sure, whatever.
So that's coming. It'll be a fun thing that we're doing to support the Guild and local craft brewery.
He doesn't go to church, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm Lutheran. We're like all the beer, meat on Fridays, and prophylactic clad sex.
That's
Ooh,
right.
under the
There
guild.
you go.
That's right.
There you go. Doug, thanks, buddy.
Appreciate it.
All right.
All
Thanks
right.
for having us down. We
Appreciate it, guys.
Good to see you again, Doug.
That's awesome. So get to the draft works of cross train at Millward Commons, because this place is super, super cool. We've had a busy day, Dr. Rob.
And
We've
they
had
do a Star Wars trivia
Yeah.
every Wednesday. It's
Yeah.
great.
Hey, we did the one guy that couldn't make it today was Scotty Strong from Husker Hounds. He was up in Ann Arbor. But remember,
Yeah, he went hardcore on this game.
he went hardcore. He make sure to go to one of the 2 locations in the Omaha area or online at huskerhounds.com.
Get your Nebraska gear, Creighton gear.
And remember, download the Doc Talks or the BetFred Sports app today and get a free $20 bet by using the promo code Doc Talk. Dude, that's an hour and 52-minute podcast. That might be a record for us.
We had guests.
We did.
We had beer.
And by the way,
We had beer.
a lot of good feedback. If you haven't listened to it, go back and listen to the Vince Ferragamo interview. A lot of
It
great
was-
feedback on that.
We have so many good interviews.
Yeah.
Anytime we got a guest, just go listen.
Yes, and speaking of that, we're going to have another podcast drop later on because we got a guest coming in on Tuesday. He's a repeat guest. He's been one of the most popular ones. So get ready for that. As Joe Moglia will be back in the studio coming up this
We
week.
might need to restock your house's supply of beer just for that one.
He's Dr. Rob Zatechka. I'm Travis Justice. Thanks for listening to the Doc Talk podcast presented by BetFred Sports.